The murky waters of Lake Erie churned, casting an ominous shadow over the city. The lake, often a place of serene beauty, now held a dark secret beneath its surface. The wind howled, and the waves crashed violently against the shore, as if trying to expel the horror hidden within. A sickening sight bobbed near the surface, catching the eye of a passerby. It was not just debris or a piece of driftwood. The object had a grotesque shape, something that didn't belong in the natural world. It was a human torso, mutilated and discarded like a piece of trash. The sight was enough to churn the stomach of even the most hardened individuals. The torso, stripped of its identity, floated aimlessly, a grim testament to the brutality of its end. September 1935, Cleveland, Ohio, shuddered under a macabre spell. The city, bustling with life and industry, was now overshadowed by a series of gruesome discoveries that would haunt its residents for years to come. This was no ordinary murder. The brutality and precision of the dismemberment suggested a killer with a sinister expertise. The city was gripped with fear, as whispers of a mad butcher spread like wildfire. The body, a man's, was grotesquely dismembered. Head, limbs, gone. The torso was all that remained, a chilling reminder of the killer's cold efficiency. The police were baffled, with no leads and no clear motive. The killer had expertly carved his gruesome masterpiece, leaving few clues behind. Each cut was precise, each dismemberment methodical. It was as if the killer took a perverse pleasure in his work, turning murder into a dark art form. Days later, another horrifying discovery, this time a woman. Her torso, like the man's, was found floating in the murky waters. The pattern was unmistakable, and the city realized they were dealing with a serial killer. Again, a torso, carefully drained of blood and washed clean. The meticulous nature of the crime suggested a killer who was not only skilled but also deeply disturbed. The police intensified their efforts, but the killer remained elusive. Kingsbury Run, a desolate wasteland near the lake, became a dumping ground for the mad butcher's handiwork. Fear gripped Cleveland. The once bustling area was now a place of dread, where the shadows seemed to hide unspeakable horrors. Who was this monster preying on the city's most vulnerable? The residents of Cleveland lived in constant fear, wondering if they would be the next victim. The mad butcher's reign of terror had only just begun, and the city braced itself for the horrors yet to come. The Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run, the press declared, a name that struck fear into the hearts of Cleveland's residents, a chilling moniker for a killer who eluded capture for years. The city was gripped by a palpable sense of dread as the butcher's reign of terror seemed unstoppable. From 1935 to 1938, the butcher claimed his victims. 12 confirmed, possibly more. Each crime scene more gruesome than the last, leaving the community in a state of perpetual fear. The city held its breath. Every corner seemed to hide a potential threat, every shadow a lurking danger. The atmosphere was thick with anxiety and suspicion. Each day threatened another grisly revelation. Headlines screamed of new horrors, and the clock seemed to tick louder with each passing moment, counting down to the next inevitable tragedy. The victims, mostly drifters and the city's forgotten souls, were easy prey. They lived on the fringes of society, unnoticed until their brutal ends brought them into the harsh spotlight. The butcher, emboldened by his success, seemed to vanish into thin air after each murder. The police were baffled. Despite their best efforts, the killer always seemed one step ahead, slipping through their fingers like a ghost. The city living a nightmare. The once bustling streets now deserted at night, as fear kept people locked behind closed doors. Cleveland was a city under siege, haunted by the specter of the Mad Butcher. The pressure mounted on law enforcement. Detectives worked tirelessly, following every lead, every whisper. Frustration grew as each gruesome discovery only deepened the mystery. The killer was meticulous. He left few clues at the crime scenes. Witnesses were scarce. Those who came forward offered conflicting accounts. The killer, a phantom, moved silently through the city's underbelly. The investigation dragged on, each passing day a testament to the butcher's chilling efficiency. Identifying the victims proved nearly impossible. Their faces, often mutilated beyond recognition, held no answers. Fingerprints, where available, led to dead ends. The victims remained nameless, their stories lost to the butcher's cruelty. Were they runaways? Transients passing through? The city's forgotten souls, dismissed and discarded? The lack of identities only amplified the terror. Anyone could be the butcher's next victim. The Flats, Cleveland's industrial heart, became synonymous with fear. This shantytown, home to the city's poorest, was the butcher's hunting ground. Residents, already grappling with poverty and despair, now faced an invisible terror. The once familiar streets became menacing, shadows held unseen dangers. The butcher's presence lingered, a specter haunting their lives, trust eroded, replaced by suspicion and dread. Wild rumors filled the void left by facts. Was the killer a butcher, a doctor? Some whispered of a satanic cult performing ritualistic sacrifices. Others pointed to a traveling carnival, its workers disappearing as quickly as they arrived. Theories abounded, each more outlandish than the last, but none brought the police closer to the truth. The butcher remained an enigma, his motives as unclear as his identity. Enter Elliot Ness, Cleveland's safety director. Famous for bringing down Al Capone, Ness represented the city's hope. He vowed to catch the butcher, to restore peace to the terrified streets. Ness, a man of action, launched a massive investigation. He raided Kingsbury Run, tearing down the shantytown in a desperate attempt to flush out the killer. But the butcher, like a phantom, remained elusive. Despite Ness's efforts, the murders continued. The butcher, a master manipulator, seemed to be toying with the authorities. He left taunting clues, sending the police on wild goose chases. Years passed, each one marked by fear and uncertainty. Then, as abruptly as it began, the killing stopped. The butcher vanished. Some speculated he had died, others that he had moved on to a different hunting ground. The truth, like the killer himself, remained elusive. The Cleveland Torso murders remain unsolved to this day. This series of gruesome killings, which took place during the 1930s in Cleveland, Ohio, has baffled law enforcement and intrigued true crime enthusiasts for decades. The victims, often dismembered and decapitated, were discovered in the area known as Kingsbury Run, a place that has since become synonymous with fear and mystery. The Mad Butcher's identity, a macabre secret buried by time. Despite numerous suspects and extensive investigations, the true identity of the killer remains a mystery. Some believe the murderer was a local resident, while others speculate it could have been a transient or someone with medical knowledge, given the precision of the dismemberments. The case, a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of any city. It serves as a stark contrast to the bustling, vibrant life above ground, where people go about their daily routines, unaware of the horrors that once took place in the shadows. The victims, though denied justice, have not been forgotten. Their stories are preserved in the annals of true crime history, and their memories are honored by those who continue to seek the truth. Each year, locals and historians gather to remember the lives lost and to ponder the unanswered questions that still linger. Their stories, fragmented and incomplete, serve as a stark reminder of the human cost of such monstrous acts. The personal belongings and photographs left behind offer a glimpse into the lives that were abruptly and violently ended, leaving behind a trail of sorrow and unanswered questions. And the question remains, who was the Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run? As modern forensic techniques continue to evolve, there is always hope that one day, the mystery might finally be solved. Until then, the legend of the Mad Butcher endures, a haunting chapter in the history of American crime.